Hair loss sucks. I'm going to put a photo up here and here of what I used to look like when I had hair. The lack of DHT, which is the strongest androgen in the body, causes the androgen receptor to become damaged and to downregulate. Don't risk your health with research chemicals and drugs that have not been studied long-term for safety in order to make weight loss a bit easier or build muscle a bit easier or to do whatever you're hoping to biohack. So I strongly recommend, and I said this in 2022, and I will say this tenfold in 2025, avoid finasteride, avoid dutasteride, and other drugs and compounds deliberately designed to inhibit 5-alpha reductase for hair loss and prostate health, including minoxidil, saw palmetto, and ketoconazole. This shit is poison, not just because you're blocking DHT, but you're also reducing the production of allopregnanolone and other 5-alpha reduced hormones, such as 5-alpha progesterone as well. Sorry, dihydroprogesterone. These compounds in the brain, these hormones, are incredibly important for neuroprotection as well as modulating neurotransmitters. It has been very, very, very clearly identified beyond any shadow of a doubt that post-finasteride syndrome is real. If you don't believe me, I am going to put a link down below. And again, I don't give a fuck if you want to take this stuff. It's up to you. It doesn't bother me. But as someone who is trying to help the world as much as possible with this lecture, what you must understand is that there was a class action from multiple patients, I can't remember the exact number, who suffered from permanent side effects from taking 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. They sued Merck, which is the company that made finasteride, and on stand, you can read the transcript in the link from the courthouse, where the company admitted that they were completely aware of the permanent side effects of these drugs after discontinuation. And they omitted that information from the package insert because they knew that it would hurt sales. So the class action was lost by the company that made the drug because they were found to be omitting this data. The problem with the fucked up pharmaceutical industry is that all they had to do was remove the statement that side effects will resolve to side effects may resolve in the package insert. That was it. So the part that I think is important, though, is that even if you're not part of the 1 to 10%, we're not really sure, of men who do get these acute side effects from these 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, it is not clear what's going to happen over a lifetime, over decades, of inhibiting 5-alpha reductase and therefore 5-alpha reduced hormones in the brain and in the body. I know from practice, and there is currently a funded study to be proving this, but myself and my colleagues have worked this out in the recent years, is that the lack of DHT, which is the strongest androgen in the body, causes the androgen receptor to become damaged and to downregulate, because androgen receptors upregulate in response to agonism, unlike most dopamine receptors, which downregulate. So when you agonize an androgen receptor with the strongest androgen in the body being DHT, it upregulates the receptor. So when you suffocate the androgen receptor of DHT, it causes damage to these receptors. And the only way that I've seen this situation resolve, which I'm going to do a masterclass on in the future so that everyone is aware, because I do not work one-on-one with PFS patients, is to increase the amount of androgens in the body to a slightly supraphysiological level for 1 to 2 years to allow for epigenetic healing to take place. And a lot of the time, this needs to be done with a high dose, twice daily testosterone cream, because this converts more to DHT, which has a stronger therapeutic effect on restoring the function of the androgen receptor. So, if you're wanting to improve the masculine outcomes, the androgenic effects of testosterone, don't block the main thing that does that. Common sense. Hair loss sucks. I'm going to put a photo up here and here of what I used to look like when I had hair. I was in a band. I used to straighten it. I used to dye it. It was a big part of my identity. Clearly, my testosterone levels were not optimal when I was younger. That kind of goes without saying. But I was devastated when I lost my hair. And here's a photo of how I looked when I lost my hair before TRT had, I guess, masculinized my features. I looked awful. I was also dealing with a brain injury at the time. I was not doing well in this photo, just as an FYI. This was probably the lowest point in my life. I cried the day I went to the barber and they shaved my head. And then I got over it. So it's a rite of passage if you have male pattern baldness to lose your hair. Does it suck? Yes. Are there going to be worse things in your life that come after that? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. So anything that is anti-androgenic, including minoxidil, which is an anti-androgen, it's weaker, sure, but it still gets into the urine and it still has anti-androgenic effects, as does saw palmetto and ketoconazole. These things should be avoided like the plague if you're wanting to increase the androgenic effects and the masculinizing effects of testosterone. So if you don't care about that stuff and you want to keep your hair cut, roll the dice. I don't think you should, but do whatever you like. But if you're wanting to get the most benefits you can for your physical health, mental health, and the traits that you believe are going to come from you being a more masculine and better version of yourself.
If you've just started TRT, it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed and confused. There's a lot of new territory to cover, and there is a lot of conflicting information. I wrote TRT 101 so that you can have everything that you need to know in an instruction manual in one place that you can refer back to, that you can have all the questions answered before they even come up. TRT 101 is my best practice approach for TRT from start to finish, and it contains everything that you need to avoid all the challenges and pitfalls that I've seen come up in my clients over the last 5 years. You can check it out via the link below.
You don't want to reduce this thing. This is the most important part of that equation. So I also recommend people avoid, where possible, antipsychotics, SSRIs, benzodiazepines, tricyclic antidepressants, as well as long-term use of corticosteroids, opioid stimulants such as amphetamine and methylphenidate. So again, I said most people. So if you are diagnosed with a severe mental health disorder and you have been on these medications long-term, or you need these medications to keep yourself safe or others safe from you, then do not take this as medical psychiatric advice. But the problem with these drugs, regardless of which class of medication they are, if they are used in situations where they are not truly needed, and there are cases where they are truly needed, I am not dogmatic about this, but the problem with these drugs is that they basically trick your brain into thinking that you're doing better than you are in the area that you have a deficit in. And when you take a pill and you put something in here to fix what's going on up here, and what's going on up here is due to your habits, due to the outcomes of how you've been living and all these different factors, you reduce the discomfort that is supposed to drive change. So I believe that you are best not altering your neurochemistry with drugs and addressing the underlying issue of why you don't feel the way that you want to feel by addressing what is off in your environment or how you are looking after yourself. And one of the most important things to do in that case, in my opinion and from my experience, is comprehensive blood work and a comprehensive assessment of your diet and lifestyle, and having that reviewed by someone who has your best interest at heart to work out if there is something that can be addressed that is leading to this scenario. And it's important that you understand how and why this is taking place and how to fix it. But in cases where if someone is psychopathic, or someone has true ADHD, or someone has true intractable major depressive disorder, there are absolutely use cases for psychiatric medications. So take that with a grain of salt. Avoid research chemicals and experimental drugs which do not have long-term safety data, such as SARMs. SARMs, I believe, when they get it right, will be an amazing medication. To be able to have a drug that agonizes and has purely anabolic effects in muscle tissue is going to be a game changer for bodybuilding. It is going to be a game changer for sarcopenia. It is going to be a game changer for a variety of muscle wasting conditions. But they haven't got SARMs right yet, which is why they've all failed human trials. So do not use research chemicals. Do not use experimental drugs which do not have long-term safety data. If someone is diagnosed with a terminal illness and your doctor says to you, hey, you're going to die in 2 months, but there's this experimental drug trial which might save your life, those are situations where the risk to reward analysis should be taken into consideration. You've got nothing to lose. But if you are healthy or relatively healthy, don't risk your health with research chemicals and drugs that have not been studied long-term for safety in order to make weight loss a bit easier or build muscle a bit easier or to do whatever you're hoping to biohack. This is a shit-framed biohacking nonsense approach. And I see so many people just throwing all caution to the wind these days with research chemicals and compounds, and they're trying to get healthier by taking drugs that have not been evaluated for safety in humans or have even failed human safety studies. I think it's a bad strategy. But if you don't agree, you can go watch someone's YouTube channel who promotes these things and you can listen to them. Doesn't bother me. So, avoid daily alcohol, THC, or other intoxicants or inhibitors of liver enzymes. Alcohol consumption is one of the number one causes of TRT not reaching people's expectations, as well as causing side effects. Daily alcohol is incredibly detrimental physiologically and psychologically. Your liver is always going to be processing acetaldehyde, which is a carcinogen. I love THC recreationally more than most people. I don't use it because it is anti-androgenic. It prevents androgens from binding with the receptor. It also dysregulates the endocannabinoid system. And while it may feel good when it's in your system and it's peaking, it is not good for a bunch of other biological processes and neurotransmitter processes. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule. Yes, there are arguments for using it in certain cases, but I do not recommend the regular recreational use of intoxicants from a lifestyle, a health, and a behavioral standpoint. Escaping your circumstances by making yourself feel better with substances is not the way to solve having a better quality of life. It is important to face the reality head on and improve the circumstances so that you don't need intoxicants in order to feel good. Disassociatives are not solving the problem. I do not recommend people drink alcohol at all. I find that some people can get away with 1 to 2 standard drinks per week, but I think that any alcohol consumption is incredibly suboptimal. And anything beyond that, anything beyond 2 standard drinks a week, if you are having side effects on TRT, anything else you are doing to solve that is a waste of time until you quit the alcohol. I have never met someone, and again, I'm saying that literally, I have never met someone in all the clients I have worked with over many, many years who was thriving, who regularly drank alcohol to intoxication. Never seen it. So there are some safer pharmaceuticals. I would say tadalafil is a safe pharmaceutical. I also think sildenafil is relatively safe. I just don't think it is as good as tadalafil because it has a very short half-life and side effects. I think metformin is safe when it is used for people who are insulin resistant. I personally don't think it is beneficial to take metformin for healthy people, but if you'd like to hear the counter argument to that, my friend Jay Campbell makes the case for using it. I just don't agree with that standpoint, but I have a hell of a lot of respect for him and his approach to it. And I also think ARBs, such as telmisartan, can absolutely be health promoting to regulate high blood pressure, especially in men who are working on improving the cause of their high blood pressure. But personally, I prefer to see something like a minimal effective dose of an ARB used with something like a therapeutic dose of EPA DHA fish oil, such as 3 to 4 grams combined per day, with something like 100 to 200 milligrams of ubiquinol. You have to understand is that testosterone does not, by default, make you a masculine man. It facilitates you becoming that man, but it will not do that work for you. How does testosterone impact how you feel, and how are those mechanisms occurring in the brain?